I've done some more studying on John chapter 9, and what happened was when I go back home, y'all don't realize this, but a lot of times I go back and I take my dross that I taught, and I go home and I go over it again to see if I missed something. And I think what I really missed back in the 9th day of December was you just got to let some stuff soak in. You've got to, when you're studying it, it's got to be more than just reading or hearing it. Sometimes you have to stop and let's get the meaning of what it's going to, what's saying. And you may think I slipped because I'm going back and teaching something I did on December 12th, but it's not, it's completely different. It has a little stuff, but it's really different. And the deal of it is, I have found this out for people. So many people live their life, their godly life, like the example I've used before of you see a stop sign, but you fail to stop. You read the word, but you keep going. You hear the messages, but they don't take any effect to you because you're doing other things, because it's just too fast. And if you don't slow down and let things soak in, what'll happen is that you will miss it. The hidden and discreet messages in John chapter 9 are awesome. It is simply stated, but yet is very, very deep. It's profound. The message of John chapter 9 is profound. And so many people, it goes right over their head because they just hit the high points and they don't understand the depth of what the lesson really is. Actually, John chapter 9 announces the negative, deprived state of affairs of the Jewish people in Israel at the time of Yeshua's ministry. Now, I'm hung up on that. I'm not obsessed, but I'm hung up on it. Because, and it's almost like something internal in my mind that says, you need to correct that. You need to fix that. It's not the television stories and movies that we see. It's not that way. It's not that way at all, that all the people running down with the tallits on the kippahs, because you wear kippah as far as that goes during the time of Yeshua, but to run around with all the Israeli fabrics and the cloaks and all that stuff. It wasn't there. It wasn't. There was some there. There was a remnant there. There was a token there. But for the most part, these people have been acclimated into other societies. You know, matter of fact, it was to a point. It was to a point that when Yeshua came, he actually had to reteach the Jewish people. He had to remind them of the past and the present and the promises of God and tell them about the future. He had to do it all. He had 3 years to do it in. Think about that. It's not what we visualize in our mind. It is what we study and dig and look and figure out that's facts. Not what we just had broadcasted on the television or an idea that we see one picture. Like you see the picture of Adam and Eve. Y'all, nobody painted Adam and Eve. That's a rendition. You see the picture of Yeshua, Jesus is painted. That's not what he looked like. That's a rendition. That's an idea. But yet if I showed you a picture of Jesus, you'd say, I know who that is. But it's not his picture. It's a rendition. And a lot of stuff in the Bible that we read is what's been flashed in front of our eyes for years, and we take it to be that way. The point is this, you could compare the people of the time of Yeshua to the children of Israel living in Egypt. That's a good comparison. Of course, it's not 100% because they're not wearing the Egyptian garb, but they're wearing Greek, Assyrian, as well as Roman garb. They're acclimated in, they're assimilated into the surroundings around them. They are, and I said it before, a minority in their own country. When I say minority, I'm not talking about numbers as much as I'm talking about power and control. You have to understand that. Now, so when Yeshua comes in to do his ministry, he is talking to the people who've been acclimated into all kind of assorted pagan societies around them. So he's having to reteach. You have to remember that the children of Israel were in Egypt for 4 generations or 400 years. Now let's just use that. They, the children of Abraham, the children of Jacob, the 12 tribes, were in Egypt for 400 years. And back then, what they lived, 38, 40, 50 years old, something of that nature, unless you was something special that God had called out. But 400 years, or 4 generations, if you can, it's 400 years, 100 generations, if you can say it that way. Depends on how deep you want to study into that. And yet, when we come to this time right here of Jesus, Yeshua, 435 BCE, Alexander the Great walked through Israel. Stayed there for a couple hundred years. The Greek Empire fell. The Syrians came in under the power, just kind of took the place of the Greeks. And then in 60 BCE, the Romans took over. We got 435 years, round numbers, okay? That's just identical almost to what the Egyptian slavery was. Think back from the year 2000, 400 years, 1600. What was life back 1600? We can't imagine. Do you think that anything has changed since 1600 to 2000 in the world? Do you think anything in Christianity has changed from 1600 to 2000? Do you think technology has changed from the 1600s to 2000? Do you think Judaism had changed any from 1600 to the year 2000? It's all changed. So that is exactly what Yeshua was dealing with. These people had been under foreign pagan influence for 400 years again. And they had gone through also before that the 400 years in there of the silent time, but they didn't even have a prophet. They didn't hear from God. All they had was their leadership. That's all they had. The priest and what the priests were doing. And the priests were creating the law that Jesus, the prophet, the disciples, and Paul all preached against was the law. You get to see some of that. So, this is something that very few people even think about that. Because we were not taught. I was not taught that in the church when I was a kid coming up as a Baptist. I was not taught that. All I was taught was that you're saved by grace through faith. And trouble of it is, we don't understand that. That's abuse. Keep going under grace, under grace, under grace, and you keep doing what you want to. What is it now? Brenda, it's, we talked about it earlier. Better to be what than what?
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
That's exactly right. It's easier to ask for forgiveness through grace than ask for permission from God to do something. That's an attitude of the world. It's better to go on and do, that's what it's the world speaking, what you want to, and ask for forgiveness after you've done it than it is to ask to God, is this right? Or ask yourself, should I really do this? And control yourself. It's an attitude. And that's what the world is fighting today, is this attitude. And this is what a lot of the churches and the preachers are teaching. Do what you want to, you under grace. They don't say it that way, but they said you're saved by grace through faith. And I said last week, the name of grace is Yeshua HaMashiach. You're saved by the blood of Messiah Yeshua, and you have faith that He is your God, and that's it. His faith means that you will obey Him. Faith is a verb. And then we see that what they did is these people were underneath The Jewish people Yeshua is talking to are not necessarily the most devout Jews. They really aren't. And what their Jewish leadership has inflicted on them is, for the most part, not even godly. Judaism's leadership had come to control a government, a control to control the people. It was all about the control. It was all about what they had to do that the leadership said they had to do. I know and you know of churches and congregations where you come in and you do what the preacher says or the rabbi says or you get gone. I know of a situation right now that happened a little over a month ago. The lady called me and said her pastor had said, you will be 100% loyal to me or you can leave. You will follow me and back me 100% or you leave. 25% of his congregation got up and walked out. That's a good thing. But where did the other 75% that stayed? I know of a couple years ago where the preacher had the ushers take the offering plates and pass them up and down the aisles and tell the women and the men to take their watches and the pearls and their diamonds and their rings off and put them in there and give them to him. You know what? He got a lot of stuff. A lot of diamond rings, a lot of wedding rings, a lot of necklaces. And the people did it. Well, this is the condition that we're under with the Judeans, as they told the people what they had to do. And under the threat of what? Do what I say or leave. It's always been a control factor. No love, no mercy, no compassion, no understanding, no forgiveness, obedience to the pastor or the rabbi, or leave. This is the conditions that the Judeans were putting on their people. And that's called the law. That was the law that Yeshua fought. That was the law that the disciples fought. That was the law that Paul fought, not the Torah. The Torah was not about salvation. It was about being civilized. The way of salvation was mentioned of having a sacrifice was there. That's what it taught. Okay? And you know what, people? That was not much different than it is today. They have a form of religion, but there is no true worship. And that's what you have to decide what you're doing. Do you have true worship or are you just religious? Are you here because you really and truly want to learn God's Word and further and better your life to be godly people? Or are you here because you're here to have a religion? Says I'm supposed to be here. I can't wait to get there. Because what are we going to do? Are you really down in your heart want to worship and learn how to worship God? Those are the big questions. And you have to remember that that's true, because what Yeshua said, many will call on my name. Many will cast out demons. Many will heal the sick. And he said, I don't know you. Many of the preachers and deacons and the Sunday school teachers and just Christians and rabbis and whatever, all the way around the people who believe in God can sit here and preach you a sermon, teach you a Sunday school class, teach you anything you need to know. But their heart is as hard as a piece of brick. Hard. They don't have the true worship of God. And they have the knowledge. The knowledge they have. There's a true story about the lady up in New York at the garbage dump. She was homeless. She was without. And they even felt so sorry for her that they built her a little like 10 by 10 shed on the dump property that she could live in. And one day when they arrived at work, she was laying outside on the ground in front of her little shack, dead. When they tore it down, they found $300,000 stacked in between the studs. She had the ability to do better, but she wouldn't do it. She had the money to make her life better and help others, but she wouldn't do it. And there are people who go to church and synagogue every day who have the ability, the power, the means, everything, but they won't change because they are their own gods. To do what I want to do, my way, and don't worry about it, I'm under grace. I'm under grace, I do what I want to. I don't know you, and I'm telling you, don't you, as an individual, be fooled by me. Did you know pregnant. She said that there was a man would have a woman, and he had a wife, and he died. Let's go through 7 times. And he said, who's she going to be married to? He said, they're going to be married and given in marriage. No marriage and given in marriage. She going to stand on her own 2 feet, not attached to anybody. You, as an individual, are going to stand on your own 2 feet before God. You're going to live in heaven on your own, and you will not be married to anybody. You will not be tied to her soul. Your sins and your rewards are all going to be 1-to-1 on you. No marriage and given in marriage in heaven, just like the angels. So that tells you the angels don't get married, okay? So, let's look at parts of chapter 9. I want to bring out some stuff right now. John chapter 9. Starting with verse 1, he said, as he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. The disciple asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, his parent or him, or his parent, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Yeshua said, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming, but no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can do the work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. That's verse 5. Okay. The last 2 verses in chapter 8 tells us that Jesus basically Yeshua had run out of the temple. He had left and went out. So this takes place outside as he passed by the man. So he's not in the temple. He's outside the temple. Okay? As he passed by the man, he saw a man that was born blind. Born blind. That is a key to today's message. Born blind. Never in the history of those people had they ever perceived or seen or heard about an individual who was born blind and later receiving their sight. Never heard of it. It didn't happen. It don't happen. Okay? So that's what you need to understand. And the disciples asked that question. Who sinned, him or his parents? And he said, neither one. But that's not important. Neither one of those sinned. And I've heard preachers, and you have too, that picked up on that and preached on that, where the sin come from, etc., etc. But it says, neither him nor, but the works of God might be displayed. In this particular situation, that's exactly what he's talking about, that the works of God might be displayed. This day, he's going to show people the works of God. There are people who will tell you today that sin, or a child born with infirmity or lame or whatever else sick, because there was sin of the mamas and daddies. We do know this now, that there are certain diseases that parents pick up years ago that have passed on through inheritance that, but that wasn't the case here. And we've seen people beat people to death with that. Well, somebody in your background did something wrong. That's your problem. But here's the deal. There's also the other side of that coin. Other side of that. That people who are born with a problem are put there so that the works of God might be seen. Can you imagine, and I don't know, maybe some people know, what the life of a family is who has a special needs child? Can you imagine what they go through? And the love that it takes, the love and devotion it takes for a parent to take care and love a child. I know of a recent situation here that this guy and this girl got married and they had a little child, a little boy. And they got divorced. And the girl come up with a boyfriend. And the boyfriend literally choked the child almost to death because they had brain damage. And the girl was there and she knew it. And then, well, when she come out, she said, oh my gosh, he said, well, she's failed, etc., etc. And they found out that she was lying about all that, but that's here and there. Ends up at the hospital, and this child is a little bit more than a vegetable. And will always be a little bit more than a vegetable. The mom and daddy are now in jail. Not mom and daddy, but mom and the boyfriend are in jail. They got like a 25-year sentence. But the daddy of the child ends up with the child. He's like 19, 20 years old. He don't know what to do. He's got no one to help him. But he meets this little girl, young girl, about 20 years old. He starts dating. And she meets the little boy. And she falls in love with the boy. I really think she's more in love with the baby than she is with the daddy. But they're married now. She quit her job. And her sole job is to take care of that child, whose every need must be met by somebody. You understand that? That's love. That's love that most people can't comprehend. But her whole life now is tending to that baby. And there's a chance that it could grow up to 50, 60, 70, 100 years old. I don't know that. Well, it's not like it's going to be where they're going to live 5, 6 years and die. But as long as that child lives, he's going to have to have somebody take care of it. And this little woman give her whole life up, this little girl, to be the caretaker. That's love, people. It's rare. It's rare. So you hear those two stories that come out of that the Word of God will be manifested here. So you can see both sides of that, and you have to decide that for yourself, which way you think, if not a combination thereof, in different situations. Many cultures today still believe it's a problem with the parents, etc., and it's taught that the sickness was caused by God for some reason, etc., and that's what I just talked on. In this event, it is true that God's work can be displayed to the people, and they were there to learn what happened about this blind man. I'm talking about the blind man. There's a definite point that he's going to be there, and he was put there so that God's power can be manifested. It's very interesting how it turns out. During the time of Israel, Bible times, let's use it that way, an individual that had a problem could go, the parents could carry him, anybody carry him before the priest, and they did a deep investigation to determine that this guy could be on welfare. And the welfare was worked that they were given a purple robe, how about that, a purple robe, and they would wear it, and that was a sign that they were legally able to seek alms, charity. And they would go to a spot somewhere, or maybe different spots, I don't have to actually work all the detail, but they could hold up their cup and beg for alms. And the people were obligated to give alms. They were registered at the temple. You know, yes, he can do alms, etc. And so this was the situation where this guy was. He's out there on the side of the road, seeking his alms, had his purple robe on, so people would know. And then Yeshua walks by and sees him. And then he comes to the point in verse 4, it says, and we must work the works of him who sent us while it is day, night is coming when no one can work. We must work the work of him who sent me while it is day, night's coming. You understand? As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So what we have here in verse 4 and 5 is Yeshua pronouncing his job and who he is and what he is about. Remember, we got a blind man and we got the light of the world. Okay? His job. I am the light of the world, but darkness now is coming. And there's another part that you need to look at. What does the darkness mean? He's going to be leaving. I am the light of the world, but I'm going to be leaving this earth. We only have a short time here. You see how deep this is? If you study this, it gets deeper and deeper, and all the messages that are in that just blows your mind. It does mine. I have a job to do to bring light to the world, but blindness is darkness. Okay? And we can compare the two healings here now. Let's compare the two healings. The one at Bethsaida and the one at Siloam. And having said these things, he spit on the ground and made the mud with the saliva. Then he anointed the man's eyes with mud and said, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Both of these healings, you remember chapter 5, we talked about the guy that had been there for 38 years, and he walked up to him on the Sabbath and said, take up your bed and walk. That's all he said. Didn't lay a hand on him, didn't touch him, didn't do anything. He said, take up your bed and walk. on the Sabbath, and the guy got up and walked, and he took off. And they said, who did this? And he said, it was a guy named Yeshua, etc., whatever, yada, yada. And all the priests said, no, he's not of God. And then it was done, though, in a pagan pool area, which is associated with the Greek Ashkelon, as well as the temple of God, the same pool, but the Judeans over the years have assimilated and mixed the two together. So what happened to religion? What happened to the Jewish religion? It is incorporated now, right here, it seems to go together with the Greek Ashkelon and the temple. They're mixed together. Who did this? The leadership, the Judeans. Okay? And the other one, today, where's he at? He's not in a temple. He's outside. And what does he do? He uses the earth. He spit in the earth, pick him up, made a polis and put it in his eyes out of the dirt of the earth. What's he looking at now? He was born blind, and he makes this mud and puts it on his eyes to heal him. Okay? What can be significant about the dirt? What point can be made? Where is he teaching the disciples, or what is he teaching the disciples and all that are watching him? What is the message? What is the message of that? It's deep. Think about it. Let's be crude. He walked up, spit on the ground. Makes him up a polis and walks up. Who would want somebody to spit and make a mud pot and put it in your eye? Kind of gross, isn't it? But there's a message here. Go back to verse 1. And he passed by, and he saw a man blind from birth. Birth was what? His creation. Born from the time he was created. Blind from birth. In other words, blind since his creation. And from Genesis we know the story of how God formed the earth, the dirt, and created man in his image. And when he created him, he saw light. And what do you think all these people thought? What was their mindset? What was their believing? Folks, there's only one creator. There's only one thing in this whole universe to create, and that's God. You can make, somebody made that camera. Someone made these clothes. You can make a beautiful picture, but you can't create anything. Why? Because create means you take nothing and make something. Then you make something, you take what has been created and rearrange it and make something out of it. These people understood that very simple idea. There's only one creator. Created the heavens and the earth. Who created light. Who created man in his image. Who created the heavens. Who created the dog, the cat, the fish, and the seas and the earth. Only one man created. And Yeshua understood, every one of these people understood that. He knew that because that was their core belief. There's certain things I can say in here and everybody say, amen, that's right, because we all believe. Okay? And then he said, this is the message. He says, the message is this, of Yeshua to those that are watching. That's what you understand. This is the message he sent. And he said, I am God. I am the creator. I created light. The people understood that because of their beliefs and what had happened in their history and what they knew and what they've been taught. I create from the dirt the sight of this man. Going all the way back to creation. Because only God created. This man was born blind. It's like God quit creating when it comes to his eyesight. And Yeshua come in and says, I'm going to take this earth and I'm going to create light in that man's eye. That was the message. I am God. I am the creator. And I'm creating from the earth. I was at the beginning. That's who I am. Those people have never seen or heard of this in all their history. The creation event of Genesis 1. Before their eyes, they saw not a healing, but a creation of the sight of man, blind from birth, and only God can create. And John 9:7 says, he said, go wash in the pool of Siloam. So he went and washed. Now, to further the message, Yeshua sent the man to the Hebrew pool of Siloam, not back to the Ashmalah, Bethsaida, but the pool to wash himself. And there he received his sight, and there he returned, Yeshua been able to see. Can you see hidden mysteries? Can you see hidden stories all through this that we've overlooked for years? I never knew this. I mean, maybe I'm just a dummy, but I never understood this. I never saw this. Reading and rereading and studying and listening to him, and say, oh my gosh, look what he's actually doing. He created a sighted man, a blind man who was born from birth to send the message to the people, I am the light of the world. And the light's not going to be here forever. It's all what we just talked about right there. And then he said, we got to work fast. We got to work fast because I'm not going to be here long. And in verse 8 he said, and the neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar were saying, it's not the man who used to sit and beg. And some said, this is verse 9, and some said, is it he? And others said, no, it's like him, but it's not him. He kept saying, I am the man. So they said to him, how were your eyes open? He answered, the man called Yeshua made mud and anointed my eyes and said to me, go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed and I received my sight. What did he do, people? Is this faith? No, this is obedience. He obeyed Yeshua. He got up, blind as he was. Whether someone led him or he had a little stick, I don't know. But he went to the pool, he obeyed God, and his eyes were washed, and he received his light because of obedience to God. And they said, well, where is he? He said, I don't know. He's gone. So they brought him to the Pharisees, and the man who had formerly been blind, and now it was the Sabbath. Oh, we gosh back to the Sabbath. What do you do on the Sabbath day? What can you do on the Sabbath day? The answer is you can do good. He said, what? You're not to work. You're not to spend money. You're not to build a fire. Those are three things you can't do on the Sabbath. But you can do good, you can do good, and you can do good. And somewhere along the line, he gives you a brain to think with. You're not to go out and do your work. If you own a bakery or a pottery or whatever it is, or a hardware store, you don't go open it up on the Sabbath. You rest. Get that off your mind. Okay? You don't go to town and buy and spend a whole lot of money, although we see the Jewish community do it all the time. We see the Christians do it all the time. Saturdays and Sundays, it makes no difference. And said you don't build a fire. Well, let me tell you something. What he is saying is that you put effort into God. And on Friday, what you do is you build a fire and you get enough firewood to keep it going. It doesn't say you can't keep the fire going. It says you can't go cut firewood. You can't do the work. You plan. You build a relationship and obedience with God. But you don't wait till Saturday morning to go out there and cut your firewood. There's some common sense here that God gives you. And what if it's not common sense? What if you just don't do it? What if you just obey? You understand what I keep telling people, kosher is about health. Well, what if it's got nothing to do with health? What has got nothing to do but don't eat pork? You just don't eat pork. You don't need to justify why. I'm just telling you, I believe it's because of health purposes. Well, what if it doesn't matter? What if it's not a reason other than God said, I said so? What do? You obey. That's what it's about, people. There was a Sabbath when Jesus made the mud and he opened his eyes. Two verbs. Made the mud, that's work. And healed. Healed. How many believe that if you go in there with a heart attack today to the hospital, and that doctor has to go in there and do open heart surgery, he's going to go to hell for it? Or that nurse is going to give you an IV. Or that ambulance driver is going to come get you. No, it's not that, people. It's not that. On the Sabbath. You don't sit there and let your dog or your cat or your cow in the ditch die, fall in the well. You get it out. The problem we have with so many people today is they put the ditch, the cow in the ditch on Friday so they can get it out on Saturday. That gives them an excuse to work and get some things they want to get done. It's about how you live your life, people. See, They all knew that the man was blind. They knew he was born blind. They questioned whether it was him or not, maybe because he was dressed. They said, it can't be no, because they couldn't believe it. Wait a minute, this guy's blind. He can't be blind. And he debated it until he identified himself. You see, he followed the instructions. And I want you to notice something, people. There's not a word of faith in there. Belief or confession of sin. None of it's there. He doesn't say, if you have faith in me and if you believe in me, you go sit still and let me make this mud and put it on your face. And if you have faith in me and you believe in me and if you'll confess your sin, you can go up at us to the pool of Siloam and put mud and wash your eyes and you'll say, no, that didn't happen until afterwards. No faith in there. Just obedience to God. He said, go to the pool. The only thing his instruction he was doing, go to the pool and wash your eyes. And that's what he did. And then in verse 11 and 12, we know that they sent him to the Pharisees, the Judeans, the pagan shepherds of Israel. And notice the words in verse 14. Now it was the Sabbath. That's the point. Now it was the Sabbath. And you understand how people have been beat up over the Sabbath for years and years and years and years. What can you do on the Sabbath? You do good. You do good. And then some of the Pharisees says this. Well, they asked him, he said, who did it? He told them what happened. And the Pharisee said, this man cannot be from God. Not once did they say, well, you know, this is interesting. Wonder how he does that. Because they were the Judeans, they were the powers. They didn't want to know. What they want to do was turn the people against Yeshua so they can keep themselves in power. We got that going on in America today. In religion today. Don't go to that church down there. I heard a lady was come in talking to me and she said, oh, my preacher told me don't come up there. And then said, well, you go up there, you can't come back and see me. I didn't heard that. Control. To me, that door is always open and closed. You come and see when you want to. Maybe that's a bad deal. There haven't been a few here today. But that's the way I believe. And then here's what happened. They made that statement. He can't be from God. But the people looked at him and said, how many people you know was born blind that anybody ever received their sight? Satan's people won't do good. He has to be from God to do good. Uh-oh, we have a division. And then they asked the man, well, who do you think he is? He says, he's a prophet. He is a prophet. That's the law, people. The law was this. He cannot be from God. Because that takes power away from us. It changes our teachings. Control, power, leadership. Watch it. And then we see the rest of the story where the Pharisees send for his parents. And they come in and said, is that your son? He said, yeah. How did he receive his sight? They said, we don't know. We wasn't there. But he is our son and he was born blind. He's been an alms gatherer. He's been sitting on the street corner with a cup for all his life. We don't know how old the guy is. But we know he's our son. But we don't know. They said, how do you know? He said, I don't know. Ask him. Why? Why ask him? Why didn't they say, well, we believe in whoever it was a prophet of God? Because this has never happened before. They were scared of the leadership. They were scared to confront the leadership. And so later on, if you read the rest of that chapter, you find out that the man met back up with Yeshua. And he says, I believe. But he was kicked out of the synagogue. He was kicked out of his Jewish community. And he had to pay a price for believing in the Messiah. Lawgivers, the lawmakers, kicked him out of the synagogue. You've ever heard the word excommunication? Excommunicated him because they did not follow them. They did not follow their law. They didn't say, you will give me 100% trust and obedience to me, or you can leave. They kicked them out, just like those 25% of the people I'm talking about. That preacher said, give me your full obedience and loyalty. I won't call a name, but I was elected a deacon by a congregation in a church.